Well, good afternoon, everybody. Jen and Rosie Reality TV. Rosie here today, and today's an exciting day for me because I get to share, well, at least a partial wall of sound with you guys here on the channel today. And as many of you saw over the last couple weeks, Jen and I had quite a feat of engineering putting together the wall of sound here using the threaded rod and the shelving, and I was excited when I was building it because I dreamed of a time when I could start populating the wall of sound with some of the stereo and amplifier and hi-fi products made in Japan and the United States predominantly that helped define the history of high fidelity and then stereophonic sound in the United States. So yesterday afternoon was really the first time I started building out the wall of sound, and to tell you the truth, I have enough stuff to fill this out probably 2 times over. And then some up here, so it's very difficult to make choices initially about what's going to be where, but some things I do know and some things that I don't. So I thought today would be a great chance to bring you in a little bit and discuss some of the early items and some of the things that represent my personal favorites in the stereophonic and the high fidelity offerings. So give me a second, I'll bring the camera in and I'll take you through and show you some of the cool stuff. Okay, well, the heart and soul of my collection is really what I call Fisher Row here, and I have one more, a Fisher 400 it's going to be here, but these Fisher units represented the peak of high fidelity stereophonic sound in the year of 1964. They marked the 1962 to 1964, and they marked a peak of really the intersection of great American build quality with absolutely unparalleled fidelity sound and stereophonic music. And of course, Avery Fisher, you can see this says on here the Fisher Company. You can see that there's a little bit of a reflection on there. All these say the Fisher Company, and the Fisher Company came out of New York, and Avery Fisher began the company, and he was really disappointed with the way that amplifiers and receiving sets brought music and listening into people's homes, and he made it his goal to do the very best he could in high fidelity. And this particular unit here is my favorite of all, the Model 800B, and it's the first one, the first stereo really that brought out true stereo in the world. That is 2 different channels being recorded, broadcast, and received, so that when you played this in your home through headphones or through, didn't have headphones for this unit in 1962, but speakers, you had a real experience of being in a concert hall, and people just went crazy for it. And I have a couple other Fishers here that represent the state-of-the-art. This one actually is combines 2 types of stereos, the old stereo where you could broadcast on an AM channel and an FM channel. You could bring in both of those stations and had sort of a facsimile sort of stereo. You would tune in the broadcast channel on the AM and then the broadcast channel on the FM, and you would turn this to FM AM stereo, and that would combine those 2 signals in the circuitry. They're extremely complicated, but it worked. And one of the things that Fisher improved on was wideband AM. Today we have very narrow band, and you don't think of AM as having very good qualities, and it didn't have good qualities before Fisher started working on it, but he developed wideband AM, and he tried to get that as clean as possible, that sound, so it would match the FM. So lots of cool stuff in this. This is really a landmark unit, as are all the Fishers, and marking just the peak of high fidelity from 1962 until 1964. These are all original. They haven't been tampered with. Yes, some of the buttons have a little bit of end corrosion on it. Big deal. I always value authenticity in my stuff, and I love stuff that hasn't been mucked with. I have up here is the Kenwood Model 9 GX, which probably marked the height of the stereo wars and complexity in the 1970s. And when you see that fire up, it'll be beyond belief. That thing even has a built-in timer. If you want to listen for 60 minutes and not worry about getting up and turning it off and going to sleep, it'll shut off itself. H.H. Scott was another huge name in stereo and high fidelity in the 40s and 50s, and this is one of the great units, the H.H. Scott, the Type 222B stereo amplifier, just an amazing unit. The Sansui, the 1000A, was really the farewell to tube receivers and amplifiers in one. This thing weighs over 50 pounds. And it was really the last receiver that Sansui built right on the edge of solid state. And it's an amazing unit. Yeah, it needs a little work, and we have the early Pioneer here, the SMQ300B. And the thing with this is, it was really one of the first ones that tried to employ the FM multiplexing, or tried to develop a true stereo sound. We'll have a lot more to say about each of these units as they're demonstrated. And the last one we have down here was also one of the early Pioneer multiplex units. Well, that's a quick survey of the units. And of course, Saul Marantz was another huge advocate of great sound. Some of you may remember some of the advertisements for Marantz in the 1970s. The guy that was holding a mug of beer, English chap, and he would be in the bar and saying they're built like Bloom tanks, right? Well, they were, and these things just gave incredible fidelity and sound. We're going to have a lot more to say about this. We haven't even really begun to populate this shelf. There's so much more stuff to go up here. Tube amplifiers to go up in here, a lot of them. And I also have quad units. And you can see this unit was just too big back here to even fit on this shelf, the Sansui QRX 7500. It's almost 50% wider than these units up here, so I have to make sort of a dedicated shelf for these units to go on back here. But they are amazing to see 4 channels, and some of you may remember quad when it was a new thing, and they talked about, well, you put 2 speakers behind you, you put 2 in front, you sit in the middle of them, and it just sounds like you're just surrounded by sound. And of course, the recording technology was difficult, and it was a short-lived fad, but for a while, quadraphonic sound was the thing. So lots more cool stuff coming, and I'll be talking about a lot more of these in the future. I really want to thank you for being along this afternoon, and I hope in the future that you'll get as much pleasure on YouTube listening and looking at some of this equipment in action as I've had over the years, enjoying it myself. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, I love hearing your feedback on things. And as usual, stay tuned. There's always more good videos coming your way on Jen and Rosie Reality TV.